What is going on, everyone? Phil here, and welcome to my review of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I have a little bit of a history with the Conjuring series. I remember I actually saw the original Conjuring movie back in the day when it first hit theaters. What was it, like a decade ago or something like that? And I actually really liked it. I thought that it had a combination of different plot lines kind of interweaving. You know, the Warrens, who were actually real life paranormal investigators, and I guess clairvoyants, who would do things like participate in exorcisms and try to stop paranormal activity, hauntings, and possessions. Having that translated into the movies was kind of interesting. I knew about the Warrens because I lived in Connecticut, where they actually were during the time when they were active. And I had done a little bit of research over the years about paranormal activity and things and heard about them. So when I saw the first Conjuring movie and it combined this unique plot line of a woman being possessed with a doll as well that was possessed and had paranormal activity, which then spun off its own series called Annabelle, it was a pretty good movie. I loved the first one. I think I saw the second one at some point over the years, but it didn't really leave an impression with me. I can't even really remember it. I think it might have had a nun in it, and didn't they have a whole spin-off movie called The Nun or something like that? This is the latest one. Came out in 2021, I believe, and I didn't see it. It just recently hit HBO Max this week, and I said, you know what, I'll give it a watch because I haven't been in the know of this Conjuring franchise, which apparently is huge. Apparently there's multiple Annabelle movies, The Nun, and all these Conjuring movies, so there's a ton in this kind of paranormal universe. But I hadn't heard anything about this one. I was like, I wonder why that is. Well, I've seen the movie, and I can probably tell you why that is, okay? There's going to be story spoilers, just so everyone knows. I will try not to spoil the whole story, but there are going to be plot elements contained in this review so that you know exactly what I'm talking about, because this movie essentially is very different, at least from the very first Conjuring. So, just the name of it, The Devil Made Me Do It, right? Makes it sound like, okay, so this will be a movie about maybe someone's possessed by the devil or a demon, and it's making them do horrible things. And to some extent, that's correct, except it kind of is only about half of the story. Unlike the other Conjuring movie or movies that I've seen, this one doesn't have 100% paranormal content. In fact, this movie very much is based around almost a courtroom drama of someone who was possessed, but now needs to prove their innocence in court so they don't get the death penalty. That's pretty crazy and interesting to think about it on paper. So, it could be a courtroom drama combined with paranormal happenings. And for the first third of the movie, it does feel like a normal Conjuring style movie where there's a child that's possessed. They're trying to do an exorcism. The exorcism goes wrong. And while they're trying desperately to try to stop this child from, destroying a house and attacking everyone around it, one of the relatives of the child, a young man in his, I would say his like early 20s, grabs the child and says, "Listen, demon, leave him alone. Take me instead." And what ends up happening is the demon jumps from the kid to the young man. And unbeknownst to everyone, the young man actually does get possessed by the child. Well, not by the child, but by the demon that was in the child. So, what ends up happening is the Warrens are involved in that exorcism that goes wrong, but Ed Warren, there's Ed and Lorraine, the couple, gets hurt by the demon. Like, the demon attacks his heart, is a heart attack, so he's in the hospital. And while that's happening, the demon now takes control of the new young man in his 20s who actually viciously attacks someone who he works with and murders him. He's seeing hallucinations. He thinks that it's a demon he's attacking, when in reality, he's the one possessed by the demon attacking a normal person. So he gets arrested, he's going to jail, and then Ed Warren wakes up and he's like, well, here's what's going on. We know what's going on, but how are we going to stop this? And it's not like any possession they've seen before, because unlike other possessions, this one doesn't seem to be a constant possession. Usually the Warrens, when they encounter a constant possession, it means the person always has the demon in them and the demon's always in control. So the person would never be able to do, for example, read the Bible. If they read the Bible, the demon would be like, "Oh, I can't do that. That's the Lord's word," and they'd be all offended by it or hurt by it. But this man can do that. So they realize that there's something different going on. Now, without spoiling the entirety of the plot, it basically goes into a lot of research into the occult, but also Satanism, Satan worship, and how basically Satanists can use things such as totems to curse people. And there's a whole ongoing plot line of how this family was cursed from the get-go, although it was inadvertent. It wasn't directly them who was supposed to be cursed. It was just there in general to curse someone. And then there's a plot line of a former retired priest and how he had a history of studying Satanists, and he has all kinds of stuff in his house, and then there's another person involved. What's really cool about it that I like, for the first time in these movies, it's not just the Warrens who seem to have this clairvoyant power. There's another couple entities or people who have it as well, and they're almost like at the opposite sides of the spectrum. It's kind of like good versus evil, right? And I like that. Like, one side's working for God, one side's working for Satan, and they're clashing heads and butting heads. And there's a couple scenes that are kind of neat where there's stuff going on where somehow a totem got snuck in, and now there's supernatural occurrences happening trying to attack the Warrens, which is cool, because usually it's the Warrens going into someone else's realm to help, but in this case, the Warrens are under attack in this one, okay? So, I don't want to spoil the plot, because the plot is a lot different than the other ones. Why? There's not necessarily a ton of demons. There's really like one demon in the whole thing, maybe two, you can argue. It's not about the demons. In the previous Conjuring movies, it was actually about the demon possessions and things. This one, it's really not. It's more about the people, and it's about kind of the people on God's side versus the people on the Satanists, and they're kind of clashing and butting heads, right? So because of that, it's a unique feel, but it doesn't necessarily feel like The Conjuring the whole way through. It does feel more like human drama rather than supernatural drama. So if you're going into this movie with the expectation that it's going to be super scary or as scary as the previous Conjuring movies, you're probably not going to get that. I could wholeheartedly tell you, I liked the plot. I was riveted by it. I was interested to see what was going to happen, but it wasn't as scary as the previous Conjuring movies. And I heard a lot of people online complaining the movie is too boring because it wasn't enough about demonic possession or demons or whatever. I kind of get that, but at the same time, the movie doesn't necessarily have to, it's not bad because it's not the same as the others, but if you were already kind of preconditioned to expect something from the other movies, I can understand why people might be disappointed by this one. It's rated R, mostly for some gore. There's not too much in the realm of like ultra violence or anything. It is more a little bit of gore and swearing and you know, the demonic scary scenes, but I would say it's a soft R. I really think that he could have probably gotten away with making this like a PG-13 movie, quite frankly. Both of the Warrens do great. You know, it's Vera Farmiga, and I forget the guy's name. This guy is like, Patrick Wilson. He's like the king of horror. This guy has played characters in Insidious. He's played the leads in The Conjuring. He's like the horror guy, right? But they do a good job as the Warrens in this. And I would actually say Vera Farmiga in this one seems a lot more creepy. It's weird because if you should actually look at the real life versions of Ed and Lorraine, they kind of look a little eccentric. You know, Lorraine dresses almost old timey and stuff. It's like, why does she dress like that? Everyone else around her was dressing normal. In this movie, they finally kind of give her like an old timey hairstyle that she sticks to the whole movie, and she does seem to act like she's a little bit weirder than other people. I mean, if you were a clairvoyant who was constantly having feelings about the supernatural or murders around you, wouldn't you also be kind of weird? So I kind of felt like they actually did the character maybe a little bit more justice in this one, in that regard. But there was also some weird things as well. And for the most part, I did enjoy it. I thought the acting was good. It actually has, man, what's his name? This actor I really like. He was the same actor who played the character in Fringe, the character of Walter. He plays an eccentric priest. But I can't see his name. Oh, yeah, Steve Coulter? Is that his name? It might be Steve Coulter. But he's a really good actor. He's getting up there in age, but as he gets older, he plays creepier characters. I think he did a really good job in this as this father who used to be a priest, but then actually resigned from being a priest to retire, but kept studying the occult and has this weird occult collection of stuff in his house. And it was weird because he was kind of like the darker version of the Warrens almost in some ways. I liked that. So some of the characters and plot I liked, but admittedly, it wasn't as much scary. Weren't as much scares. Wasn't as much of a focus on demons. So if you liked that stuff, it's not as good. Personally, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a good movie. It kept me riveted. The story was interesting right to the end. And I found the ending actually quite good too. It actually had almost like a cute twist to the end that made it all about kind of the love of the Warrens is what keeps them together as a couple and allows them to persevere through all these crazy supernatural happenings. Perhaps if they weren't such a loving couple who cared about each other so much and had such a loving history, they wouldn't be able to go back to that as their rock to keep them together through all these horrible happenings that they're involved in. But it's kind of this cool ongoing plot line throughout the movies, and I really appreciated that about the movies. I don't know how accurate they are to how the real Warrens were, but they're always a good time. I liked it, but I think personally what's happened is that people have become so accustomed to, we need over-the-top scares, tons of demons, all this stuff, and you didn't really get that much in the movie. I'd say like the first third had a lot of that, And then a lot of it is investigation, and a lot of it is a little bit here and there, and then it kind of calms down again. There's some courtroom drama involved, and because of that, it does feel like a different style of movie from what you're ready for with a Conjuring movie. But personally, I enjoyed it. I don't know. Maybe I just like that kind of mysterious atmosphere in a horror movie where it's like, I just want to keep investigating what's really behind the cause of everything. What's doing this? What's doing that? And I've tried not to spoil it for you so you can watch the movie yourself and actually find out the real happenings behind what's going on with this cursed family and this demon that possessed someone. And will they get off from the crime because it's been proven in court that they were demonically possessed? Well, I'll let you watch the movie and find out for yourself. But personally, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Just don't expect over-the-top gore and too many scares because it's lighter on those and more on kind of drama and a more thriller-style plotline. Okay? So The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, I enjoyed it. Probably not as much as the original Conjuring, but it's still a pretty darn good movie. I liked it for what it was. All right? Thank you all for watching my review of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time right here on DSP Reacts. Peace out, everybody.